This is Consenting Adults with Leyna Nguyen.
I'm really interested to have the conversation I'm about to have because I know that there are Asians in the lifestyle, but no one I've asked is willing to come out and talk about it. And I really would like to normalize this conversation, which is exactly what my guest is also wanting to do. She is from Beijing. She met her husband in China. She's been in the US now for 6 years. They live out here on the West Coast because they have professional and private lives that they need to protect. We're going to call her A. Her husband is J. So you're Chinese American. How about your husband?
He's American, and he was born and raised here.
So you told me that you're a queen of spades. I've never heard that before. What does that mean?
Okay, so Queen of Spades means women that are only interested in black men.
Oh, okay. And then what was the other term you told me? You're a size queen. What does that mean?
It means I like large size peanuts. That's what it means.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are into the BBC.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Before we get into the all the different things that you're into, I'm interested in knowing kind of the background. I mean, was it a good marriage? How did you open the door to the lifestyle?
Yeah, of course it's a good marriage because we both are pretty happy and we trust each other. I believe our level of trust is probably in the way is higher than the average couple. We keep everything transparent and we're not really hiding anything. So there's no jealousy and there's nothing like we think we shouldn't let our spouse know about it.
Mm-hmm. So you have no secrets from each other.
I believe that's the key to the open relationship or to the open marriage. Because your spouse isn't jealous about you're seeing other men or women, and there's no reason for you to hide it from them.
Does your husband see other women?
He is allowed to, but he's probably not seeing other people as many as I do.
I see. So you're happily married, right?
Mm-hmm,
You had a good sex life?
Yes, we do.
So what happened? I mean, how did you come up with this idea that you wanted to go outside your marriage?
It actually started even before we got married. It wasn't truly my idea. My husband was the one started it.
Oh.
We had a really good sex to begin with. At the beginning, he was chatting with me and he was asking me, if you are allowed to do everything and anything, what would you want to try? What's on your list? I thought it was just a very, very like casual type of chatting. I didn't give too much thought, but then I was like, okay, if I want to do something, maybe a threesome. I didn't really take that very serious, but I guess he did.
Did he make that fantasy come true?
Eventually, yes. And he came up with the proposal. Why don't we give it a try? My first reaction was like, I don't know about that. But then he brought it up a couple of times and that made me think. And I was like, yeah, I wanted to do it. It was one of my fantasies. And if I don't give it a try now, I may regret one day.
Mm-hmm. Now, was your fantasy a threesome with 2 men or a man and a woman?
With 2 men.
He knew that and he was okay with that?
He was okay, and I guess that excited him, and that's why he kept bringing it up.
Okay, so tell me about that first experience.
I'm going to be honest with you. The first experience wasn't so good.
Why?
Because it was the first time for 3 of us. None of us had a clue what we were going to do. So it was his friend. We met each other, we had a little bit chat, and we decided, okay, this is something exciting, and we're going to do it. So then we went to the hotel room, and we're about to get started, and every one of us was like, didn't know where to begin with, and got pretty nervous. So we didn't really push it through. We made out, but then eventually I felt like, this is not working. Let's go out, grab a drink. So we ended it halfway.
Okay, so it wasn't very sexy, right? It was awkward.
Yeah, first time it wasn't sexy. So,
Did you try it again?
oh yeah, I did, but after quite a few years. I was still in China. We were like in a long distance relationship. Sometimes we chat and he says, "Oh, I'm not with you. How do you feel? Do you need someone to give you company, to have an intimate moment with?" And I was like, "Oh, I think I'm okay." But then again, sometimes he's asking. He said, "I just want you to be happy. I want all your needs to be satisfied." And he says, "Would you be interested in meeting someone?" When he put it out like this, and I was like, "Yeah, if you're okay with it, and if it's not an issue for you, you've been encouraging me to do it. Yeah, I'm open to the idea." So then we find a guy who lived in the same city with me, and I met him. He's a American as well, and he lived in China at the time. But my husband was back to the U.S. So I met him, and our first meet and greet was good. He was good looking. He was younger than me, and he was pretty hot. He worked as a model at his spare time. But technically, it wasn't a threesome because my husband wasn't there.
Right.
Yeah. But it just made me feel like it's a threesome because he was there all the way, and we communicate with everything. And after I met this guy, and I told him, I may want to record audio if you're not comfortable with the video, and because I want to share with my husband.
So the guy knew, you let him know that you're involved with someone else.
Yeah, he knew from the beginning. That's why I said transparent, not just transparent between two of us. And you got to be honest and transparent with whoever involved in this relationship.
Okay, so you met an African-American man. He knew you were involved with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
You are a Queen of Spades.
Mm-hmm.
Had you been with an African-American man before?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't realize that was my preference. I mean, before him, yes, I dated Asian, white, and black as well, but I wasn't that exclusive.
Well, and what is your husband?
He's Caucasian.
You didn't realize you have a preference for African-American men. You married a Caucasian who now allows you to sleep with black men. Mm-hmm. You have the best of both worlds right now.
I pretty much have everything I like in the plate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say my preference probably developed later, and I didn't realize that something I prefer until later. This is actually the best I ever had, and I'm gonna stick to it.
Okay, this is gonna sound, I don't know how this is gonna sound actually, but I'm just gonna ask.
Mm-hmm.
Is the preference because of a size thing?
Part of it, but it's truly a combination because I'm always attracted to the masculine men who have a really fit, nice looking body, and the demeanor is very, very masculine. But then later on, I realized you can see this feature, this attractive thing in black men. And of course, size is one of these things. But if you see there's a white man who has a large size, it probably doesn't sound exciting for me as much as a black man that has a large size.
Okay, very interesting. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, and then everyone's got their thing, right? And sometimes people can't explain exactly why something turns them on. It just does.
That's very true, especially when it comes to, different
sex.
It's hard for you to explain why.
So let's fast forward. Eventually, you and the boyfriend get married. You move to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout this whole time, are you taking part in these kinds of activities?
Yes, it was on and off.
Does the husband ever participate with you?
There are times and when three of us are together, and yes, he did participate. And there are times he participated a little more, and there were times he participated less. There were a lot of time he was there.
Is there any cuckold involved with your husband?
To be honest, I think psychologically, maybe he feels a little bit, and maybe that's something he feels like, oh, it's a little exciting.
It could be just a hot wife situation too, right?
It could be.
But you think that there may be some kind of cuckold going on with your husband?
The reason I think maybe is he wants to see me with someone who has a larger size. So that's where my guessing is from.
So after you get married, it sounds like it's kind of an accepted part of your lifestyle, right? This is how you guys are. Being married doesn't change any of it, right?
No, yeah.
Can I ask you then, I mean, I think I already know the answer, but just in case people are wondering, you're with your boyfriend and you're able to have sex with basically anyone else you want, and you learn that your preference is Black men. Why did you marry a white man?
Well, love is complicated. I mean, I like sex with Black men, but I do love my husband. I love this man who allows me to have any other man I want. And it sounds like nothing more I need from a marriage. So let's see, I still like to have a sex with different people. What if I marry a Black man who doesn't want me to do this swing?
Have you ever been in a threesome with your husband and another woman?
Not really. No.
Not really?
Yeah, no. I'm trying to
no.
think. No, yeah.
And you don't have an interest in that?
I think my interest is somewhere else. I never really thought about it.
Okay, and he doesn't have an interest in it?
I'm pretty sure every man does. But that's not something like he's most excited about.
What is he most excited about?
He's excited to see me with Black men, and he likes to be there, and he likes to watch, and he likes to participate.
Now let's get into all the stuff that you're into.
Mm-hmm.
We know that you like Black men. We know that you like well-endowed Black men. There's really no other way for me to ask you this except to ask you.
It's okay. We are trying to normalize this conversation. Okay. So there's nothing weird.
Okay. I've looked on your Twitter. I've seen your videos. I've seen your pictures. Some of it, I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, that looks like it would hurt. And, you know, we're talking a lot of generalities or stereotypes, but has it always felt good? What is it about having a man who, I mean, in one of your pictures, his penis was like as big as your arm?
I know. That was really like, wow. When I see that, I'm like, really? Is that...
But when you see that, that turns you on. It doesn't say like, I don't know if I can do this.
It's a little bit of both. So
do you see it as a challenge?
I did see it as a challenge, and it was truly a challenge.
Oh my God. Okay, now you have to tell me about it. Now you got to tell me about it.
Yeah.
There's this other thing that I hear a lot of women talk about in the lifestyle, and it's the feeling of feeling full. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Well, I don't know because I don't. But a lot of women in the lifestyle who like to do DVP or DP talk about liking that feeling of feeling full. Like, how did you get to the point where you're enjoying it, where it feels good and not painful?
Well, first of all, I don't do DP because I can't. It's painful for me. So it's truly, if it's truly painful, I don't do it. Yes, some of the size, like some of the men, they are large. And the one you're talking about, like almost the size of my arm, that it's not common, I have to say.
And that was enjoyable?
Eventually, and it really is a key whether these men know what he's doing or not. Because if they don't know what they're doing, and it can make you feel the pain or unease or very uncomfortable. And if they know what they're doing, first of all, you don't have to use everything you've got there.
We're okay with 60% today.
Yeah. And then secondly, if you're able to make the woman arouse, so like fully and relaxed, excited, And I don't think it is that painful. And you feel the stretch, but stretch is just a stretch. It's not pain. And at least that's how I feel. But of course, it takes you a little bit time to adapt to his size. So that's why, what I'm saying is if they know what they're doing and they may start very slow move and doesn't use 100%, and he will be able to observe your reaction and go from there, like whether we want to like speed it up or we want to continue going slow. So it really truly depends on whether they know how to use their tool.
So lots of foreplay.
Yeah, lots of foreplay, and you go from slow motion to fast motion. You go from 60% to 70, 80. It depends on how much you need eventually.
How about lube?
You can use it, but I don't really use that often. I think I get pretty wet when I'm aroused, so it helps.
Mm-hmm. How old are you?
I'm 40.
But you've been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah, for a while, yes.
Do you always orgasm? I mean, is this like a physically pleasurable thing for you to be with men who are that large?
Honestly, physically, for me, I believe for most of the women, you don't really need a huge size to give you orgasm, as long as they're hard, as long as they're within the normal range. But like for me personally, it's a preference. When I see a large size, it gets me excited. It's a visual excitement.
Mm-hmm. Let's now get to the part where you're trying to normalize the situation, especially with the Chinese population. As you probably know, and I'm only guessing that it's the same with the Chinese as it is with the Vietnamese, and that is some aspects of the lifestyle are accepted in the culture. Like, like in Vietnam back in the day, it was okay for like the wealthy men to have more than one wife. There weren't a lot of males, so there were more females than there were males. And if you were wealthy, you might have taken on one or more wives. And that's just a part of the culture.
Yeah.
Is it the same thing with the Chinese?
Yes. Ancient time, yeah, one man can marry like several wives.
And it's accepted.
It was accepted for a very, very long time in the history.
Right. But the other way around doesn't work. So when you're a woman, you're expected to be with one man, and that's it. Sometimes it goes as far as when a woman becomes a widow, she's expected to then remain celibate. So we're talking culturally and historically, like, way back in time, right?
That's right.
But it also becomes like an accepted part of the culture in that men are okay to experiment. Men are okay to have a lot of experience. But if you're a female, you are expected to save yourself for one man, and then that's it. Same thing with the Chinese?
Exactly the same.
But we know that women also have these kinds of desires, right? Have you talked with a lot of Chinese women who like to have sex outside of their marriage like you?
I'm trying to generalize, and I don't have a lot of friends that like to have sex with men outside of their marriage or outside of their relationship. Or maybe if they do, they don't talk to me about it.
Right.
Because still the society do not recognize it as a good trait.
It's a human experience, right? It has nothing to do with whether you're white or black or Asian, right? It really has nothing to do with where you come from or even how you were raised, because there are people who were raised with a lot of strict religious rules who like lifestyle activities. So it's a human experience. And yet, because of society, because of culture and everything that we were taught, it seems like the Asians are still kind of behind on being open about it and honest about it. So you don't have a lot of Asian friends who are in the lifestyle. Knowing what we know, there has to be a lot of Asians in the lifestyle, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure they are. The reason I see that is I have like 50,000 followers on the Twitter account. And many of them are couples in the lifestyle, and many of them are Chinese in China. So Yes, they are.
So Chinese in China, which again, it's a whole different thing, whether you're Chinese in China or Chinese in America or anywhere else, right?
Mm.
When you're in the US, I think people feel a little more comfortable being a little more open.
Yeah, I think so, because there are a lot of restrictions if you live in China, and it's a different environment, and there are a lot of things you can do, and some things if you do, it can become illegal.
Right.
Even though that's your own business.
Let's be honest, there's stuff that happens here, right, in the US that is still illegal or not socially accepted, even though you're doing it in the privacy of your own bedroom with consenting adults, and it really doesn't affect anyone else, and yet people judge.
Yep.
So what are you trying to do to change that?
I try to encourage people that are interested in the lifestyle. Do not really think or care too much about how the other people think about your lifestyle, because that's your life and you only live once. If you want to do it, as long as it's safe, as long as no one gets hurt physically and emotionally, like everyone involved in this situation doesn't get hurt, and go for it, enjoy it. A lot of time when we try to do something or when we want to do something, we always try to think, is that wrong to do it?
Right.
So my definition of wrong is if anyone gets hurt emotionally or physically. That's wrong.
Mm-hmm. So you're trying to normalize the conversation as well. How are you doing that? What is your website?
My website is Hediaoquinn, and it's www.heidiaoquen.com.
Is that Chinese?
Hediao is Chinese, and Queen, of course, it means queen. So Hediao in Chinese means black hawk.
Oh. And what will people find on the website?
It's pretty much like a platform for everyone that are interested or curious about this lifestyle to get to know it and learn what we really do in our life. So it's not a porn website. So you just go there and watch the video, and it tells you a little bit more about how we do it, what we do, how we think, and what we think and feel about it. And they're also on the other side for the black men. If they are interested in an Asian couple, an Asian wife, and they can come here and to share what they're into.
Does your family know what you're into?
No. I want to keep it outside of their knowledge, because I don't think how they're going to perceive it. So no, they don't.
Any last words you would have?
Don't struggle too much with what's right, what's wrong. So as long as no one gets hurt, as long as everyone enjoys it, and you are pleased from this experience, go for it. Don't have to hesitate. Give it a try. You may or may not like it, but you have to try to know it.
And while the Chinese hotwife suspects there may be some cuckolding going on in her marriage, our next guest has no doubt about it. She's known as a cuckoldress, and she's got some pearls of wisdom to share. Do you shower before, or does he like it if you don't?
Oh, yes. You just hit on one of the absolute gems of this kind of lifestyle, because...
Oh, it's a gem.
It is. This is the treasure trove right here, because that is, for me anyway, the pinnacle of a cuckolding relationship. It's called cream pie cleanup, and it's a horrible term.
Whoa, wait a second.
Yeah, there needs to be a better term.
That's next time on Consenting Adults.